What's the first thing you'd put on if you wanted to stop being yourself for one night? Today, that's a costume from a store. Plastic and a little embarrassing the morning after. Roughly 40,000 years ago, it might have been the opening move in the oldest religious practice anyone has ever found solid evidence for. In a cave called Hohlenstein-Stadel in southern Germany, archaeologists pieced together nearly 200 tiny fragments of mammoth ivory, found scattered and broken, into a single carved figure standing roughly a foot tall, the head and shoulders of a cave lion, fused onto an upright human body. Researchers, including archaeologist Nicholas Conard, date it to somewhere between 38 and 40,000 years old, making it one of the oldest pieces of figurative art ever discovered anywhere on the planet, and quite possibly the oldest physical evidence of a human imagining themselves as something else entirely. Why carve a half-human, half-predator figure at all? A second, similar lion-headed figure has since turned up at a nearby site, which makes random accident a hard theory to defend. Conard has pointed to this repetition as support for something deliberate. Organised belief, a shared idea passed between communities, about humans who could become animals, or animals who carried something human inside them. Decoded plainly, this looks like one of the earliest fingerprints of organised religion itself, tens of thousands of years before anyone built a temple or wrote down a single rule. That idea didn't stay locked inside one ivory carving, and it didn't stay symbolic either. Roughly 11,000 years ago, in a much wetter, greener England that no longer exists today, hunter-gatherers at a site called Star Carr were doing something startlingly literal with the same impulse. Archaeologists Nicky Milner, Chantal Conneller, and Barry Taylor, leading major excavations there between 2003 and 2015, recovered 33 headdresses made from the skulls and antlers of red deer, carefully shaped and perforated at the base so a person could actually wear one over their own head. Experimental archaeologists later reconstructed exactly how. The skull packed with damp clay, set into a bed of hot embers for up to 4 hours, slowly softening the bone enough that flint blades and hammerstones could shape it into something a living human head could fit inside without splitting it apart. Picture the weight of that on someone's skull. Not a mask balanced in front of the face, but antlers rising directly off your own head, deer skull bone pressed against your scalp, your own human face hidden completely beneath something that used to belong to prey. Here's where it gets genuinely hard to pin down and worth sitting with instead of rushing past. Researchers studying Star Carr have gone back and forth for years on what these headdresses were actually for. One answer: practical hunting disguise, a low, careful approach toward a grazing herd, antlers held just high enough to read as one more deer among many, close enough to strike before anyone bolted. The other answer: shamanic ritual gear, worn by someone speaking to spirits, marking a rite of passage, or asking the land for permission to hunt at all. For a long time, those got treated as competing theories, published against each other, as if only one could possibly be the real answer, and proving one meant disproving the other. Then researchers looked at ethnographic records of more recent hunting cultures who still used remarkably similar disguises and found something that undercuts the entire question. In several of these living traditions, there was no meaningful line between the two explanations at all. Stalking the herd and addressing the spirit world weren't separate errands. They were the same act, performed at the same time, by the same person, wearing the same skull. That single detail should reframe how you picture the moment. The hunter crouched low in the grass, antlers catching the light exactly the way a real stag's would, wasn't choosing between practical skill and religious belief. There was no seam between the two for that person to notice in the first place. Catching dinner and touching something sacred were the same motion, the same crouch, the same borrowed skull. You still reach for a version of this, even if it's just for one night a year, even if you'd never use the word sacred to describe it. Slipping into a costume that turns you into something with claws, wings, or fangs for a few hours taps the exact same instinct that pressed a deer skull onto someone's scalp 11,000 years ago. The pull to step outside your own species for a while and see what the world looks like from inside something else's skin. Sports mascots, animal logos worn proudly on a jersey, a child refusing to take off a dinosaur costume for 3 straight days. None of it reads as religious to you, and yet all of it descends from the exact same impulse a hunter once carried into the grass wearing a dead animal's skull as their own face. So the next time you watch someone disappear into a costume and come out the other side acting just a little different, remember the ivory lion man buried in a German cave for 40,000 years, and the antlers once carved to fit a very real human head.